Melbourne, it's the kind of place where you never know what's around the corner. One minute you're strolling past street art that looks like it belongs in a gallery. The next you're hopping on a tram that's been rattling along for over a century. And here's a fun one. This city almost ended up being called Batmania. Crazy, right? But that's Melbourne for you. Full of surprises, full of stories. Ready to see what makes it so unforgettable? Let's go. Here's a cool fact you might not know. Melbourne is the birthplace of the 8-hour workday. Yep, it all started in 1856 when a group of stonemasons working on Melbourne's public buildings decided they'd had enough of the grueling 10, 12-hour shifts. Instead of staying silent, they took a stand and marched off the job, demanding a simple but revolutionary idea: 8 hours of work, 8 hours of rest, and 8 hours for themselves. The wild part? They actually won, and without any violence. Their victory in Melbourne set off a ripple effect that spread across the world, shaping the modern work-life balance we often take for granted. So the next time you clock out after an 8-hour day, you can thank a group of bold Melbourne workers who knew their worth and changed history. Picture this, you wake up to a dazzling sunrise promising a perfect summer day, but by lunch you're zipping up a jacket as the wind takes a sharp, icy turn. By mid-afternoon, you're caught in a sudden downpour, only to see a rainbow appear by sunset. Welcome to Melbourne, the city where the weather seems to have a PhD in drama. Weather forecasts in Melbourne? Honestly, they're more like friendly guesses. Even meteorologists, armed with the latest gadgets, often throw up their hands in defeat. People here love to joke that predicting Melbourne's weather is a losing game. The truth is, you don't adapt to Melbourne's weather. It trains you. Melburnians have perfected the art of weather-ready chic. You'll see folks carrying bags that could rival Mary Poppins, stuffed with sunglasses, umbrellas, hats and scarves. Layering is not just a fashion trend here, it's survival gear. Locals will tell you their motto: if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. This unpredictable weather is part of Melbourne's identity. It's Melbourne's way of keeping life exciting. You never know what to expect, but that's part of the magic. It's like Melbourne is whispering, stay curious, stay flexible, and enjoy the ride. So as you're sipping coffee in a laneway cafe or taking a stroll by the Yarra River, the weather becomes part of the adventure. And trust me, you'll miss its charming chaos once you leave. If you think Melbourne's rollercoaster weather is its most unique feature, wait until you hear about why this city has been crowned the world's most liveable for years. Did you know Melbourne has more cafes per capita than anywhere else in the world? Crazy, right? This city runs on coffee. But here's the thing, it's not about grabbing a quick caffeine hit. In Melbourne, ordering a coffee feels like part of the culture. Baristas here treat espresso machines like fine-tuned instruments, and every cup has a personality. Sometimes bold, sometimes smooth, sometimes surprising. Forget the big chains. Each cafe has its own vibe, from cozy landway nooks to sleek industrial spaces serving the creamiest flat whites you'll ever taste. Looking for a Starbucks? You might be searching for a while. They're rare around here, and honestly, who needs a cup of sugary coffee-flavoured milk when Melbourne's got world-class brews made with love? This city takes its coffee seriously, and once you've had a taste, you will too. For 7 golden years, Melbourne reigned as the world's most livable city, topping the Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Livability Index from 2011 to 2017. Even today, it's a city that effortlessly mixes elegance and energy, ranking as Australia's most livable and 4th globally in 2024. What's its secret? A recipe that blends the practical and the passionate. Melbourne's charm begins with the basics. Melbourne is proud of its excellent healthcare, great schools, and smooth-running infrastructure that feels like a lesson in how to build a city right. Trams glide through the streets like clockwork, and green spaces pop up everywhere, offering a slice of serenity in a bustling metropolis. But what really sets Melbourne apart is its soul. The city hums with creativity. Its landways double as open-air art galleries, alive with murals and the occasional impromptu jazz performance. The food? A global feast. Whether it's a rooftop dumpling bar or an alleyway espresso joint, the choices are as diverse as they are delicious. Cultural festivals light up the calendar, celebrating everything from film and comedy to flowers and multiculturalism. And then there's the sports. Fans pack into the Melbourne cricket ground and the tennis courts of the Australian Open. Here, life isn't just about living well, it's about living fully. Of course, no city is perfect. Melbourne faces challenges like housing affordability and the pressures of rapid growth, yet it tackles these with the same innovative spirit that put it on the livability map. If you're into amazing food, crave cultural experiences, or just love a city that gets everything right, Melbourne draws you in. And trust me, once you're here, you'll never want to leave. Today, Melbourne thrives as one of the world's most livable cities, but its story of success started long ago during a golden age known as Marvellous Melbourne. Let's travel back in time. Back in the mid-19th century, Melbourne was just a humble colonial outpost, quiet, unassuming, minding its own business. Then, in 1851, someone shouted, "Gold," and everything changed. The Victorian gold rush hit like a jackpot, drawing hopeful miners from every corner of the world. Melbourne's streets buzzed with excitement. Its population exploded, and the city quickly became a hotspot for riches and big dreams. By the 1880s, Melbourne wasn't just marvellous, it was swimming in riches. The city was crowned the wealthiest in the British Empire and, believe it or not, was considered the richest city in the world. Grand buildings sprang up, showcasing architecture so fancy it made European cities do a double take. Public spaces were stunning and the cultural scene was alive with energy. Melbourne wasn't just rich, it was downright fabulous. But as they say, the harder you climb, the harder the fall. The 1880s property boom was fueled by wild speculation and dreams of endless growth. Land prices shot up faster than a rocket, and people poured money into extravagant office towers and sprawling suburbs. It all seemed too good to fail, until it did. When the bubble burst in the early 1890s, it was a spectacular crash. Banks folded, property values tanked, and unemployment soared. Melbourne went from marvellous to miserable in the blink of an eye. It was a harsh lesson in the dangers of unchecked ambition. Still, Melbourne's story didn't end there. The city's resilience is etched into its bones. Landmarks from the gold rush era, like the stunning Royal Exhibition Building, remain standing tall. Reminders of a time when Melbourne dared to dream big. These buildings add a touch of grandeur to the city and keep its history alive. Today, Melbourne wears its past like a badge of honour. The lessons learnt from that boom and bust saga have shaped the city into a place that balances ambition with reality. So, as you wander through its streets, remember, Melbourne isn't just a city, it's a tale of gold, glory and grit, and one that's still being written. While Melbourne's wealth and grandeur once defined it during the gold rush, its modern growth is just as impressive, especially when it comes to population. Melbourne and Sydney have always had a bit of sibling rivalry, and now Melbourne has finally scored a major win. It's officially Australia's most populous city. But wait, there's a catch. This title comes with a little geographical trickery. Let me explain. The 2021 census revealed that Melbourne's significant urban area, SUA, reached 4,875,400 residents, just edging out Sydney's SUA by 18,700 people. How? Melbourne expanded its urban boundaries to include Melton, a fast-growing district in the city's west. So technically, Melbourne played its cards well and claimed the top spot. Sydney, however, still holds the lead if you look at the broader metropolitan area known as the Greater Capital City Statistical Area, GCCSA. But don't worry, Melburnians. The forecasts predict that Melbourne will surpass Sydney in the GCCSA category by 2031 or 2032. What's driving this population boom? Well, for starters, Melbourne's got charm. The city has been a magnet for international migrants, particularly from South Asia. Its multicultural vibe, thriving economy, and welcoming communities make it a top choice for people starting a new chapter in their lives. There's also the housing factor. Melbourne's property prices, while not exactly a bargain, are often friendlier than Sydney's eye-watering real estate market. That's enough to make families and young professionals pack up and move south. Add to that a lower rate of people moving out of Melbourne compared to Sydney, and you've got a recipe for rapid growth. But here's the real kicker. This isn't just about numbers. Melbourne's growth reflects its growing appeal as a city that offers opportunity, culture, and a quality of life that's hard to beat. From its bustling laneways to its green spaces and world-class amenities, Melbourne is thriving in more ways than one. So while Sydney might still have the Opera House and Harbour Bridge, Melbourne's got the people and the momentum. And honestly, this friendly rivalry just makes both cities shine a little brighter. With its booming population, Melbourne's transport system plays a key role in keeping the city connected. And it's not just efficient, it's iconic. Melbourne might be famous for its coffee and laneways, but let's not forget one of its greatest flex, its public transport system. This is no ordinary network. It's got two claims to fame that make even other cities jealous. First, the trams. Melbourne is more than a city with trams, it's the city of trams. Boasting the largest operational urban tram network in the world, it's like the veins of the city, carrying its lifeblood. With over 250 kilometres of double tracks, 24 routes, and around 1,700 stops, Melbourne's tram network is like the city's lifeline, keeping everything connected. More than 200 million passenger journeys happen every year, whether it's commuters rushing to work, students on their way to uni, or tourists marvelling at the sights. And let's not forget the fleet of over 500 trams themselves rattling along the streets as iconic to Melbourne as the Yarra River. But wait, the trains have a story too. Flinders Street Station, sitting proudly in the heart of the city, is more than just a place to catch a train. With its grand architecture and iconic clock tower, it's a historical treasure. And the main platform? At a staggering 708 metres long, it ranks as the fourth longest railway platform in the world. Serving over 1,500 trains and 110,000 people daily, it's more than busy. It's buzzing. Locals and tourists alike pass through its doors, making it one of the busiest stations in the Southern Hemisphere. Together, Melbourne's trams and trains do more than just move people. They tell a story. They're part of the city's charm, seamlessly blending function with character. Whether you're hopping on a tram to St Kilda Beach or catching a train to a footy game, you're experiencing a piece of Melbourne's beating heart. Here's something you might not know. When the Commonwealth of Australia was born in 1901, Melbourne became the temporary seat of the federal government, though not officially the capital. At the time, the fierce rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne over which city should become the capital was at a stalemate. Neither city wanted to back down, so the solution was to build a brand new neutral capital halfway between them. That's how Canberra came into the picture. In 1908, Canberra was officially chosen as the site for the new capital, but the construction of the city took years of careful planning and development. So from 1901 until 1927, Melbourne served as Australia's unofficial capital. But why Melbourne and not Sydney, the nation's oldest and largest city? Sydney had history, size, and prestige on its side. It was the birthplace of European settlement in Australia and boasted a thriving port city. However, Melbourne's spectacular rise during the Victorian gold rush of the 1850s changed everything. The city became a financial powerhouse, home to grand public buildings, a modern transportation network, and the already existing Victorian Parliament House. This building, which had previously hosted the Parliament of Victoria, was readily available for use by the federal government. As a result, there was no need to construct anything new in Melbourne, making it the most practical choice at the time. Politically, it made sense too. Melbourne wasn't claiming permanent dominance, just playing host until Canberra was ready. That temporary role lasted until 1927, when the newly built capital officially opened its doors after years of meticulous planning. What if Melbourne wasn't called Melbourne? What if it was Batmania? Yep, that was almost a thing. Back in 1835, John Batman, a grazier, entrepreneur, and the closest thing we had to a real-life superhero, claimed this patch of land as his own. While exploring Port Phillip Bay, he stumbled upon the northern bank of the Yarra River and famously declared, "This will be the perfect place for a village." And for a brief moment, the dream of Batmania was born. Batman claimed to have struck a deal with the local Aboriginal people, acquiring 500,000 acres of land. Of course, this deal is now widely debated, but it set the wheels in motion for what would become Melbourne. Batman even set up shop on Batman's Hill, near modern-day Collins Street. But life wasn't all smooth sailing. Poor Batman struggled with syphilis, became estranged from his wife, and tragically lost his son in the Yarra River. By 1839, his story came to an early end. Enter John Pascoe Fawkner, Batman's rival and another founding father of the city. Fawkner wasted no time opening Melbourne's first pub because, let's be real, no city is complete without a good watering hole. He also launched the Melbourne Advertiser, the city's first newspaper, in 1838. Fawkner wasn't just a man of business. He jumped into politics too, helping shape Melbourne's early government. But here's the plot twist. In 1837, Governor Richard Bourke decided to ditch the name Batmania and name the city Melbourne in honour of British Prime Minister William Lamb, the second Viscount Melbourne. The name comes from his family estate in Derbyshire, England. Not exactly superhero material. Sorry, Batman fans, the cape didn't make the cut. Still, the legacy of Batman and Fawkner lives on. Suburbs like Batman and Fawkner, parks, and even a federal electorate, originally called Batman before being renamed Cooper in 2019, remind us of these early settlers. They may not have been perfect, but they certainly knew how to leave their mark. So next time you walk along the Yarra River or past Fawkner Park, remember the quirky beginnings of this great city. Melbourne may not have ended up as Batmania, but it kept the bold spirit. And that's pretty super, if you ask me. Thanks for exploring Melbourne with us on Amazing Journeys. We hope you loved uncovering these 9 fascinating facts about this iconic city. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit that like button, share the video with your fellow adventurers, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories from around the world. Got a favourite fact about Melbourne or a city you'd like us to explore next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep being amazing.